Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it? You already know. Like a torta with some bad habits. Bye up, bye up. Let's get straight to that intro. Welcome back to the channel. And if you haven't already hit that like and subscribe button, make sure you go ahead and do that. Put your notification bell on all so that way you're directed in the direction of the dope content that I stay kicking. And I appreciate the support. I'm very humbled by it. SR Loko. Show, right? You know, there's so many people making terrible accusations about this individual. So many people in my DMs disrespecting this man. And I've said it before, when people pass, especially people in the industry, not especially, but you understand what I'm saying, right? People in the industry that have passed tragically due to gang violence, drugs, whatever it may be, criminal activity, right? People seem to think that after they're gone, now because they can't defend themselves, now because they're out of the way, that they could talk their shit. This is the way I feel. Once you pass away, your slate should be wiped clean. Anything you've ever done to anyone, and I believe people are not going to forget. They might forgive, but they don't forget, right? But still, anything you've done, you know, you've paid your dues by losing your life. And especially if it's tragically at the hands of the enemies or people that you were your opposition, striving against, right? We'll say it like that. But I believe the slate should be wiped clean. All the disrespect after death, all the talking shit and making accusations and clowning, that makes the person doing it look worse than the person that did it in the beginning. Okay? If you keep antagonizing the situation and disrespecting someone that can't defend themselves after they've passed, what does that make you? A coward, basically, right? Now, if this man SR Loko had some things going on prior to his death, you know, that right there was a situation that could be handled and held between him and the people that he was disrespecting or people that were disrespecting him. And obviously at some point, the situation got dealt with, right? Now, there's a lot of people on social media that are fueling the investigation, a bunch of fucking criminal experts, a bunch of private investigators, a bunch of the bounty hunters, right? You know, and it seems to be this way every time someone passes, someone that was a rapper or a Norteno or a Southsider or a Crip or a Blood or someone within that lifestyle, right? People take to social media and run with all these conspiracy theories and start putting out stories about who did it. Now, I'll say this. SR Loko was very disrespectful in his music. If you know me, I play a lot of Northern California rap music. I play a lot of Southern California rap music. I play a lot of Chicano rap, 90s R&B, just a little bit of everything. And there's always people that come on my lives or people that get at me and they want me to play a particular song of someone in their area or someone from their neighborhood. And I always say the same thing, and I've been consistent with it for years, right? Those that watch me know. I always tell them, look, I have no problem with playing your homeboy's music. You know what I'm saying? Sending your homeboy a shout out, putting his music out there on my platform for people to listen to. No problem whatsoever, as long as it doesn't disrespect the other side. Meaning if it's a Northern California music, I don't want it to disrespect the South side. If it's a Southern California music, I don't want it to disrespect the Northerners, you know, and that's not because I'm loyal to one group or the other. And it's because I'm not. I respect both groups. I respect everybody and what they're doing. And I don't believe social media is a place for gangbanging. Okay. I believe gangbanging, there's not a place in society for gangbanging, but if it's going to happen and it's going to happen, then it should happen face to face or right there in the calles, right? It shouldn't happen behind a camera. You know, there shouldn't be people disrespecting each other, calling each other chomos and weirdos and disrespecting, you know, because that's rather unbecoming of a group. And that shows a lack of professionalism. That shows a lack of class. That shows a lack of integrity, and that shows a lack of gangsterism, for reals, you know? It's a cowardice act. You know, it's bumping baking soda breath on the door. It's cell soldiering. It's woofing. If you can't get to that person and your intention is to not really get to that person, but get to that person's feelings and their emotions, Well, that makes you an emotional person yourself, right? To try to invoke emotion takes emotion. Remember, I gave you the knowledge you can't get in college. So I just don't get down with that. So when people ask me to play that type of music, I do it without disrespect. Now, I was asked a long time ago, can you play SR Loco's music? I took a little glance, listened, and realized right from the gate that his music was very disrespectful, okay, towards Southerners. So him being from San Rafael, and San Rafael in the Bay Area is a mixed bag. There's a lot of Southsiders, a lot of paisas, a very heavy Mexicano, Americano community, Chicanos, and then of course you got Norteños, and Southsiders. And so it's mixed. You got a lot of everything. So that is the perfect recipe for disaster, meaning, a lot of these cities where Southerners were able to establish, get a foothold, plant their flag in Northern California, there's a lot of drama. There's a lot of animosity and a lot of, war, a lot of battles being fought on those streets. The Bay Area has always had Southerners. There's always been Southerners all the way from in San Francisco, 19th Street. They've been around for years. San Jose's always had Southerners all the way from the old Vickystown days, Barrio Su 13, all those different gangs, SSPs, and all these cats. And then you have, different various cities in the Bay and the Valley where Southerners do, there's pockets of them. Okay, now as far as like cities like Vallejo, Richmond, and I won't necessarily say Vallejo as much. There are Southsiders in Vallejo pretty thick, but towns like Richmond were overran by Southerners. Okay, they literally took precedence there. A lot of the old Norteño gangs are no longer in existence. Southerners kind of took over that whole city of Richmond. That's the truth. You might find some Norteños in the city of Richmond, but there's no old school established barrios still really out there repping like they used to, right? And so San Rafael was slowly but surely being overran and overtaken by Southerners and paisas. Okay, and so this dude SR Loko, I could understand him coming from San Rafael, standing his ground for his neighborhood and representing. Now, I'll say this, and this is what people need to understand. When it comes to the north-south issues between Norteños and Southerners from Southern California, them issues are only handled behind the walls, if even that. I could sit here and count on my hand, less than fucking my digits on my fingers, how many times North and South issues arose while I was incarcerated in prison. It just really never happened. Now, in Northern California, it's a different vibe. Because Southerners have invaded and because they've established in Northern California, and it didn't just happen yesterday, it's been happening gradually since the 80s, right? There's real war. Okay, there's an animosity between the upstaters and the Norteños. Norteños feeling that upstaters are dudes that just couldn't hack it in the Norte, and upstaters feeling like them representing the Sur, they have to go a little bit harder because they're surrounded by a real opposition, right? So I could understand SR Local disrespecting in his music, feeling some type of way because he was living that threat in real life. He was living where it was no red on red. It was more so a North and South thing, the upstaters and his neighborhood. Now, he was murdered this week, okay? Or last week. And, for those that didn't watch my first video or don't know, he was a pretty prominent rapper in his area. Not very good rapper. Didn't get a chance to blow up as big as he could. He was from North Star Records, which they've had some pretty good music, in the past. But one thing about that label, and I respect to that label, a lot of the guys are really ingrained and really about that life. They're really in the streets, right? They're not just rapping about it. The things that they're saying in their rap music, they believe in it, right? They're gang banging, they're doing all that. And so SR Local was one of them guys, very talented and gifted, but at the same time, he was so ingrained in the gang life and the Norteño movement. It seemed like his whole outlook on life was even more so than rap music. Rap music was just an outlet and a platform to perform on, to let it be known how he felt about his enemigos. Okay. And there was a lot of disrespect in his music. And I heard it. That's why I never played his music on my platform, because of how disrespectful it was. I'm not going to say he wasn't a good rapper. He was a great rapper, right? He had a talented future if he chose to do that. But like I said, man, anyone who chooses to gangbang on music and all that, you put yourself in a caja. You put yourself in a box. And the only people that are going to fuck with you are local people that know you and people in the northern region, and same thing goes for the South, right? Bulldogs as well. When you make music for the masses, then people are going to enjoy it all over the place. But when you make music for a certain region, then that's it. That's all you got. So the money's not going to be as extensive. And so most of these rappers know that, hey, I could rap, I could do this, but this is where my heart's at. You know, they got an understanding with the gang that they're from or the group that they represent, that comes first and foremost before their family, before their music, before anything. And SR Loko struck me as that type of individual, right? And so his music was very disrespectful. Now, how is this investigation being fueled by social media? There's a lot of different barrios in San Rafael, okay? And there's one southern gang in particular that's dominant as far as when it comes to Southsiders in that city, right? And that'd be the 18th Streeters. Shout out to 18, man, respects, right? 18th Street is the largest gang in the world, okay? Next, I think them and MS. And 18th Street has been ingrained in the fabric of Chicanismo, Chicano culture since its inception, right? Since the split from Clanton and all that. And 18th Street has been a gang that initially, when they split from Clanton, you know, did it out of preservation of what they believed in. And what gained them more notoriety than everybody was how they took in members and were willing to open their doors to members of all races. You know, there's a lot of black 18th Streeters, white 18th Streeters, Salvatruchas. There's a lot of just, people from El Salvador, Mexicanos, just everything. You know, 18th Street was not colorblind when it came to that. They understood that numbers meant power, right? And so that's how they were able to establish. And the area of LA that they were from was heavily gang influenced, and they just gained popularity in numbers. And so 18th Street is established in every state. Pretty much every city you're going to run into 18th Streeters, and respectfully so. You know, that's just how it is. And so they find themselves in San Rafael in the Bay Area. And I'll tell you right now that they're pretty deep in that city. They're like I said, the biggest gang when it comes to Southerners, even bigger than the Northerners in San Rafael. So when SR Loko passed the other day, there was people on social media, content creators, that were quick to run to social media to not just tell you what happened to this man and his demise. I made a video and said, man, he lost his life. Didn't implement no suspects, didn't say these guys did it or those guys could have did it. I just said it, just no one knows at this point, right? There's no leads in the investigation that we know of, right? As far as the officer saying it could be gang related, more than likely, usually when a gang member dies, it's gang related, especially if it's gunplay, right? But to point fingers and direction at one group, one gang, just because this man didn't get along with them, well, that's telling. That's dry snitching, right? That's just basically a setup. You know, just because I might have beef with someone, if something happens to me, doesn't automatically mean they did it. You know, hey, I could have took a shit and it went sideways and my shit exploded, right? And it doesn't mean the dude who talked shit about me is to blame. So there was content creators, and I'm not going to name no names in particular. I think you guys could figure it out, that ran to social media as quick as they could. Meet. They road runnered, right? They ran to social media, and the first thing they did was implement the 18th Streeters. Okay, whether SR Loko's gang had an ongoing conflict with 18th Streeters or not, well, that's not the question. Of course, South, North, there's going to be that always. Even if they didn't have direct contact and they were in direct fucking confrontation of each other, we all know North and South, especially in Northern California, do not mix, right? Those are automatic enemies. Blue and red, right? That's just how it goes. So people literally ran to the internet blaming 18th Street for the demise of SR Loko. Now, somebody from San Rafael from 18 reached out to me, and he was pretty upset, right? Not at my video, at others' videos. And he said, hey, bro. Well, he didn't say bro because Southerners don't say bro. If you ever hear a Southerner saying bro, you might have been a Northerner, right? But he was like, hey, yes, it fucking, you know, hey, my water is getting blamed for this guy. They're watching us. This, whatever he said, right? I'm not going to say too much, but the gist of it, right, was that these guys had nothing to do. He claims had nothing to do with this guy, his demise, right? That, yeah, they didn't fuck with them. They didn't like him. And if they'd have seen him, then I'm sure it would have been some confrontation and conflict. but that they had nothing to do. But there's people making videos blaming them, saying that they're the ones who did it because of a rap song, a disrespectful rap song you made. Well, I'm here to burst a bubble. Here's the bubble I'm gonna burst. That wasn't the first disrespectful rap song that he made, disrespecting 18th Street or Southerners in that area, upstaters, right? It wasn't the first one, and it definitely wasn't going to be the last one. So for one particular song, and it's being put out there by social media, oh, this is the song that got him whacked. This is the song that they just couldn't take. He had worse songs than that. When I say worse, I mean way more disrespectful. So I don't think it was that. I think it was more so this man putting himself out there and just being that type of individual. There's people that say he was a hitter. There's people that say he was really about that life, that he was a threat, right, out there. And then there's people that are saying that he wasn't really like that. And you're going to have that. It's the disrespect. It's on both sides. It's just like your voter. You think it's number one, but everyone thinks it's number nothing, right? And that's just how the game goes. So on SR local side, you're going to have people saying, yeah, man, that was a real homie. He was really about that business. He lived by the gun and he definitely died by it, right? Then you're going to have people, Southerners and people on the other side say, man, that fool was messing with these type of people. He was doing this. He wasn't really like that, right? Whatever the case may be, whoever took his life felt that he was. And the reason they felt he was a threat and that they took his life is because, best believe, if you have an enemy, here's some game, right? Knowledge you can't get in college. If you have an enemy and he's not a threat to you, you can give a fuck what he's got going on and what he's doing. Sometimes the disrespect on music and all that's just not enough to take a man's life. It's like, hey, bro, that fool's inconsequential with us. He ain't shit. We know he's really not like that. You ain't like that. Chill, Felipe. You ain't in the field, Felipe. It's real, Felipe. The killer's been shooting to kill, Felipe. Like, you just know that person ain't really like that. So you don't have to go out there and make an example out of him. But when there is someone that's really out there putting in work, someone that's making your life miserable, someone that's really about that life, it's like, hey, man, we got to eradicate this guy. This guy got to go. This guy's a threat. This guy makes it hard for me to go anywhere, right? And it's like that, But for one particular group to be blamed by social media, oh, it was the 18 Streeters that did this. Nah, well, hold up, man. You're going to get these guys jacked up. You're going to get these guys RICO'd. You guys are going to get these guys incarcerated. Stop fucking telling on social media already, or making up stories and blaming people when you don't even know what happened. It could have been a domestic situation. It could have been, he got in an argument with the neighbor. It could have been a number of things. But to say it's one particular gang just because they're the dominant group and just because he had issues with them, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But it's not no one's business to say that on social media. That's fucking telling, man, already. And don't say you're doing it to help the kiddies and to show people how bad gangbanging is. No, because you run quick to the internet to fucking talk about it because it's going to bring views. And that's the truth. That's the fucking facts. You could do a video like I do a video and say what happened without saying what the fuck happened, right? There we go. Let me explain to you about individuals like SR Local. In my area, there was this one particular dude. And I should just do a whole story on him, right? Because this Vato was different. But I'm gonna elaborate a little bit right here. This Vato was he was really with the business at one point in time. He was running with the regiment. He got pulled as a bro. He was one of the ones in the town, right? Somewhere along the line when he was in Pelican Bay, he fell off and no one knew. So this man got out and he understood that no one knew. They didn't have, at that time, Pelican Bay with the Northerners, man, the mail was slow, right? There was no phones. There was none of that. So it was running slow. So you were like months behind getting messages to and from, right? And there wasn't too many chicks going up visiting people. And it just was different. The correspondence was slow, turtle slow, right? Ninja Turtle. And so this man was able to get out around the time he fell off. He aligned himself with Northern Riders at the time, which was at that time a newer gang, a dropout gang that no one really knew about on the streets too much. Now everyone knows, but no one really knew. And he got out and he was running crazy. Now he posed a threat in the town because not only was he trying to have things his way and influence people, but he was a hitter. He was someone that was really with the business. And best believe there was a lot of times, and I can't speak on all the situations that he was targeted for whatever reason, right? And ultimately it ended up the way it ended up. But I'll say this, though, And I'll definitely say, I mean, I did 4 years over the individual. I was trying to get his ass too, right? I had to go sit down and do 4 years over that shit. This dude never went out. This dude was doing his thing. And if this dude wasn't as big of a threat as he was, he wouldn't have been as big of a target as he was. Do you see what I'm saying? So when it comes to SR Loko, I understand the situation with him, man. For the people that are disrespecting him, saying, oh, he wasn't really like that and all that. Maybe he was, maybe he wasn't. But if he wasn't, man, people wouldn't have pulled up and felt some type of way. Now, again, man, to be blaming 18th Streeters just because they're the deepest Southerner gang right there, man, hey, it ain't nothing new. People blame them for everything all the time. But I was told, like I said, by someone from that neighborhood that they had zero to do with that. And of course, people are going to say that. Of course, no one's going to admit it. Oh, yeah, that was us, eh? Right? The Bobosas are the ones that take fucking, you're not a person that takes accountability. You take accountability. But when it's a fucking open investigation on an unaliving, I didn't got shit to say, right? But he wanted me to extend and make this video and say, you know, for them people that are out there fueling the investigation by social media, making stories up and blaming groups, stop already, man. Fuck, you can get your views without lying already. And that's just the truth. Anyways, with that being said, man, I wanted to put that out there. This is an active ongoing investigation. Will someone be caught up? I'm sure, man. There's ring camera footage. It would happen in broad daylight. You know, eventually someone's going to get caught up and then the real story will come out. But until then, man, please refrain from disrespecting the dead. Refrain from disrespecting a neighborhood that you don't know had anything to do with this. And if you do know, and it always fucking trips me out, dudes that get on social media and won't show their face, won't put their picture, they'll have a J or an I next to their name, right? And they'll say, oh, it happened because of this. And they'll tell you the whole fucking story. And if you know the game, you're like, fuck, man, this fool just put the whole shit out there. I have to delete comments and shit. It's crazy, man. Like, if you know, you don't know, right? And even if you know, you don't. It's not for you to speak on, man. You know, a man lost his life for disrespect. What you're doing is worse. Just saying. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to struggle, and strive for what I truly believe in. That's the betterment of all people. This video right here is sponsored by Barrio Liquors in Turlock, California. If you're in the Central Valley, the 209 area, pull up to Barrio Liquors and get you something cold to drink. Also, by Sticks and Stone Yard Service in Tucson, Arizona. If you live in the Tucson area and need yard work done, make sure that you Google Sticks and Stones for an approximate estimate. Man, even mention my name and you can get you a good discount. This is the gun. Bang, bang.